here to talk about Summer League 2025. The California Classic and Salt Lake Classic are over. We're into the Vegas portion of Summer League now. Mitchell is actually here in physical location with me today. We just got through a day of pickleball and golf. Love the golf part. Pickleball was a little bit of an ass kicking, but we don't need to talk too much about that. But we have a couple of special guests today. We are joined by Dizzle Dynasty. First off, Zach, how are you today, good sir?
Very good, sir. Very good. Enjoying the basketball. It's sicko season. I am feeling amazing.
All right, very good. And then Brian, how are you today, dude?
Doing fantastic. Just watching the summer league games, right?
That's right. That's what it's all about, man. So we got a lot to get through. There's plenty of rookies that we want to evaluate. Some of our favorite rookies from this draft class. We'll talk about, just how we favor them in Dynasty, how they're doing so far in Summer League, and then there's of course some solid year two and year three performers that have had some pretty big breakouts. Mitch and I have been watching. We currently have the Phoenix and Washington game on right in front of us here. Before we dive deeper into some individual players, I wanted to talk with you, Zach. You released an article recently about does Summer League really matter? And I was wondering if you could maybe kind of just give us a quick summary of your main points from that article to let us know about a little bit how we should be valuing our players' performances in Summer League.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to share. Yeah, really, where it kind of came from for me is, every year we always see these overreactions when people aren't playing well. It's, the Alex Sard, infamous 0 for 15 game. It's, Kasparas Jakucionis, who's not having his, greatest games in his first two. And really like just what kind of it came from is just seeing all the overreactions. And I was like, I want to put my thoughts out there. I want to share, just how I do this, how I evaluate, and really just like kind of put some nuance to when we say, this thing doesn't really matter. Because, as I kind of summarize in the article, it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does. And really, when I break it down and I kind of get to the point of which it does matter to me, it's more about just the process over the results in the end. Really just kind of what I talk about in this is that I evaluate just a lot of the nuances of people's games. So, it'll come in sort of my pre-draft evaluations, how does that match up with their positives and negatives, sort of what they're showing early. Are they or at least in the early minutes, are they advertising what they showed that they had? What weaknesses. So really just kind of breaking that down and just kind of throwing out a lot of the stat stuff because it's always going to look kind of weird. It's if you're seeing guys like AJ Lawson who are scoring, over, 20 points per game consistently, and no disrespect to AJ Lawson, of course, but it's not a real NBA environment and it's not something you can put a lot of weight into. So, it's really just kind of about seeing people like where they are on that level and just learning what you can from it, just taking those little nuggets, those little pieces of their game and how you're able to apply it to a real environment. So yeah, it's really just kind of talking about what really matters in summer league ultimately. And the answer is it's the process and seeing if their process early on is good, you know.
That's a great point because there's those main flashes that we look for, big performances or just little instances that happen within a game, even if that
Mm,
player's overall performance wasn't incredible, just little flashes here and there, and then always coming in with the understanding is there is some specific players who greatly benefit from NBA spacing, playing with other star players on the floor, and aren't going to
right.
be as more of a creator for themselves or the rest of their team. There's always that kind of always seems to happen each year. But back to your point in the beginning about overreacting to maybe performances that people aren't too fond of. Let's turn our attention to Cooper Flagg and his performance from last night. So for those of us in nine category, we see the six rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Great, we love that. But the rest of the general public might have a few words to say about the 10 points per game. So let me turn this to you first, Brian. Are you worried about at all about Cooper Flagg, or did you like what you saw from him in game one?
He was great. There was nothing else to really say about it. He just didn't hit shots, and the process was good. He'll eventually hit shots, and eventually that fantasy game is going to look really, really good. There's really not much to say about it. We've seen it at Duke. He was unbelievable. He put up tons of incredible numbers, especially from a nine cat perspective, and was just super dominant. Won National Player of the Year, was easily the best freshman of the season. Led his team to the Final Four, which was a heavily laden freshman squad, and that doesn't happen in college basketball much anymore. I'm not worried at all. He'll be fine.
Agreed. What about you, Mitch?
Yeah, not worried at all. I just want to have a quick comment. One of those famous pictures with him and Bronny going at it, that was actually really cool.
Yeah.
Really awesome moment, especially because they're trying to like televise it as some sort of rivalry, when we all know there really is no comparison. I thought that was a little bit funny, but Bronny actually held his own in terms of looking like a real NBA player from spurts, especially on the defensive end. So, props to Bronny for making that leap. But it was also interesting seeing players like Darius Baisley initiating the offense and playing some really ugly basketball.
Yeah.
But enough about the Lakers. Someone who I want to talk about right now is Ryan Nemhart, who went undrafted. So he's someone who's pretty much my favorite undrafted player in terms of potential opportunity and 9 category stat set that you could probably get for cheap if you're very unaware in these deep leagues. I'm going to turn it to you, Zach. In regards with Nemhart, do you see him as someone who could potentially crack a rotation in the bench unit despite his minuscule size?
I do. He plays just really well. I was very impressed by him. I mean, we knew sort of what to expect coming in. He was this guy who could score really well. He has great vision. He passes really well. He's a Nemhart. I mean, you kind of knew, not to be derivative and say he's like his brother, but you knew what to expect. I mean, these guys play similarly. They play well. They play super hard. And yeah, I mean, every single thing that I saw about him that I liked, despite having him kind of lower on my big board, perfectly translated. And he looked really great doing so. So yeah, I mean, I would be happy to take him as a flyer, in fantasy. And I think, I totally see a world where he is cracking the rotation often. Especially because they need more point guards. And, regardless of whatever happens with the Cooper Flagg point guard stuff and how much they lean on that, I mean, the reality is you're always going to need these guys who can do that. And I think he just plays. I mean, there's a lot of guys in this draft that have that dog in them, and like he's definitely one of them who does, and that matters to me, and I think he's going to show frequently throughout summer league that he can make a rotation. So I'm excited to see the case, but I definitely think it can happen.
Yeah, it's like it can be so hit or miss with brothers sometimes. It's like,
Cody Williams.
yeah, J-Dub and Cody Williams, it's like hit and then at least at this point in time kind of a miss. Although Cody did have a good game today in Summer League. He was awesome in the Summer League when I saw him last year during his rookie season as well. So I'm not too sure exactly what the issue is for him on the regular NBA floor, aside from obviously playing against better competition. But then there's like other examples of the brotherhood in the NBA that does work out, like the Jones brothers, for example. Tyus Jones came in, solid backup point guard in the league, and Trey Jones is pretty much as good, maybe slightly less as good as his brother, but comes in with the exact same concept, tough player, great playmaker, and able to score a little bit here and there if he needs to as well. And it seems like the Nemhard brothers is probably going to be more on the Jones side, where both are at least going to be either in a rotation or potentially even starting at some point here too. Nemhard, I'm sure, is going to have a much better season this year with Halliburton out. He's got some more room for him to take over here.
It's also kind of hard to compare someone who just made second team All NBA, right, with the J-Dub to Cody Williams. The variance is so high, but in terms of Nemhart, he's a high-level role player. Don't get me wrong, but he's not an All NBA type talent. So seeing those similarities with Ryan's game is definitely promising, although 4 or 5 inches shorter. So let's go on to another game, the Orlando Magic and Sacramento Kings. I'm going to turn it to Andrew really quick. What are your thoughts on your favorite player of this class, Maxime Reynaud?
So Reynaud yesterday, 16.6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Let's see, he went 2 for 5 from three-point land, so 40%, perfect from the line as well. And then Neat Clifford, someone else that I like, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. He's someone who's always been able to fill up the box score. And just, I don't know, something about this Sacramento team for Summer League. They also have Devin Carter, Isaac Jones. And it's just, it's a team that I really want to keep a close eye on. Brian, is there anybody on this Sacramento Summer League team that you're keeping a close eye on?
One name I'm kind of thinking right now is Isaiah Stevens.
Okay.
He was in that Miami system last year, and also kind of bringing back on the Nemhard part. Like that's kind of who he reminds me of. Stevens is someone that I really went back and forward with. And he was obviously great at summer league last year. He really helped Khalil Ware stand out. I'm interested to see what happens here with this point guard situation in Sacramento. They seem to not be high on Devin Carter, seem to want to trade Malik Monk. They brought in Dennis Schroeder at a ridiculous price, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I could maybe see a world where he breaks into the rotation. I'm way less certain of him than Ryan Nemhart at this point, but I think it's just good to have another good floor general. And it's also another good example of you can find these point guards that are really good at passing, can set the table and just not really screw stuff up really cheaply on waivers and in the draft. It's another reason why I'm kind of a little more skeptical on Nemhart as well. But Stevens is someone that I think with another year under his belt and the fact that he was with Miami, I think there could be a bit more opportunity there. But I also do think it's a little worrisome that he left Miami and they let him go after a year. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that one.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so that Sacramento Summer League team is one that I suggest people keep a close eye on just because they have a couple of good upperclassmen in Raynaud and Clifford who are putting up good points, and then some very interesting prospects from last year, such as Devin Carter, Stevens, Jones, two different Jones who are pretty interesting to watch here. But on the flip side of that game, the Orlando Magic. Let me ask you, Zach, how do you feel about Jace Richardson?
He's good, man. I mean, he definitely knows how to play. He has great feel. I mean, he's such an Orlando guy. As I was sort of sorting through some things, preparing for our recording today, I just, we touched on a few of our favorite fits, Brian and I. And I mean, the Orlando guys are such Orlando guys, Penda and Richardson. I mean, they just make perfect sense. But yeah, Richardson's very good. I mean, he, shot two, I think it was 2 for 3 on threes, I believe. 14 points. I mean, he's a good scorer. I'm excited to see how he kind of continues to refine his game. I would imagine, I mean, hopefully, I guess we'll see how the rotation pans out, but I would really like to see him and Anthony Black work together in their second unit. That really intrigues me a lot as far as how they can function together. But yeah, big Jace Richardson fan. I'm eager to see how he does the rest of Summer League and if he can keep getting buckets, how much more he can keep passing the ball. But yeah, definitely like him.
Very good. Mitch, anything else to add on Jace Richardson?
Yeah, if you're a fan of Jace Richardson, think Peyton Pritchard is probably, I want to say, the higher end outcome for him. And no disrespect to being a potential Six-Man of the Year candidate. With Jace, I just don't see it if he's not a lead initiator for the offense, being that primary point guard. Just because of the size, he doesn't have the playmaking chops. I know he's going to continue to round out his game just because he comes from an NBA bloodline. But if you're not going to be a primary playmaker, you're more thrusted in that six-man type of category where you're the spark plug of the team, and he has that offensive firepower and his efficiency and his scoring. That I think that's a pretty solid high-end outcome for him. And, a lot of people have Pritchard near the top 100 in their dynasty leagues. So let's move on to the Nets. Very interesting game here. A lot of different playmakers that they drafted. They drafted Nolan Traore, Yegor. I think he pronounced it correctly in an interview.
Yegor?
No. His last name. It was like Dioman.
Oh, okay.
Yegor Dioman.
Yeah.
Yegor Dioman. Okay.
Ben Saroff, and of course Danny Wolf. So, Brian, I'm gonna head this one to you. Out of those three playmakers, who do you think has the best career long term?
I mean, I have to go with my guy Yegor. I had him at 7 and my big board.
Nice.
I got many opportunities to see him live because I live right next to BYU. So I got the opportunity to see him in a lot of different situations. I'm not worried about the fact he had 0 assists. He looked exactly like he looked at BYU, but a lot of it with Yegor is projection, and a lot of it with him to me, like I know he's a great kid. I know he's a hard worker. He's level-headed. He knows what he needs to work on. And I think in time it'll come. I think there's a chance he might be one of the most negatively impactful players in the NBA next season. But I think it'll come with time. I do think Traore is going to be pretty good too. I was very excited to see how he played at Summer League, and he definitely did not disappoint. Seraph, I go back and forth on. I think for him, it really just depends on the shot because he doesn't have Yegor's size. I don't think he's got a really good ton of NBA outs per se. Whereas with Jaeger, he's 6'9" and played off ball at Real Madrid. So I feel like there's more NBA outs there.
Very good point. And one thing I'll probably say I love the most about Traore's performance yesterday, 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Absolutely love to see that. Just a good scoring performance overall. He shot 60% from the field and 100% from the free throw line. So that was kind of what pushed him back on draft boards, was efficiency issues during his time playing in France. But at the end of last year, he was really starting to come alive, and looks like he's starting to carry that momentum through to at least summer league so far. Going to you, Zach, how do you feel about Danny Wolf?
Danny Wolf. I think Brian's higher on him than I was. I go back and forth. I mean, he's so interesting. I mean, he can, he's such a good playmaker at his position. I'm just, it's interesting about the fit in Brooklyn. They just have all these guys who, have their questions, especially, offensively, they've had their questions at times. Traore certainly, through one game looks like the, most refined of those three if you're just going off the one game. But Danny Wolf, I'm eager to see. I would like to see more. Didn't have an amazing game in this first game. I believe he was 0 for 5 from the field. So not amazing there, but I'm not worried though. I think he'll take some time, but I think, throughout the year he'll just keep getting games, and he'll probably have these games where he's inconsistent. But the skills are there. I mean, definitely for fantasy, the skills are there. The fact that he can play make really well, like I said, is great. People are going to be very in on that for fantasy. But yeah, I'm just kind of in I need to see more mode, I think. And that's always kind of where I've been for a bit, to kind of be higher on him, I would say.
Yeah, and going back to the point we were talking about earlier with your article about does Summer League really matter? You always have to keep it in context too. Some of these guys that are on the same team as these rookies that are trying as hard as they can to even at the least get like an Exhibit 10 deal or a two-way deal. Like, for example, Drew Timme yesterday played 30 minutes, 22 points, 9 rebounds, took 13 shots, most shots on the team yesterday. You know he's trying as hard as he can to stick onto this Nets roster, whereas someone like Danny Wolf, at least for now, has a guaranteed position because he was drafted in the first round. So that was interesting to see. Not a ton of playing time from Ben Seraph yesterday, so not much to talk about there. And then on the OKC side, Thomas Sorber is still recovering from that foot injury he suffered back in February. But we do have someone to discuss who technically is a rookie, even though he was not a part of the 2025 draft class, and that's Nikola Topic. Mitch, what did you see with Topic yesterday?
Yeah, Topic has really impressed me. Yeah, that he needs to take care of the ball more, but I give him more of the benefit of the doubt that it's because he has been pretty rusty in terms of like coming back from an injury. He's reintegrating himself in the offense. But I loved some of the flashes. The passing is there. And especially when like Caruso gets phased out, Isaiah Dro, because of the contract the contract extensions of J-Dub and Chet, those monster extensions, the payroll is going to be very expensive. So OKC is really going to have to rely on those rookie scale contracts to be real contributors for their another championship push. So I'm excited about Topic. There is a lot of argument where he could have probably went in the top 5 last year, but he came off an injury. So, this is his first real chance. But I'm a little bit hesitant because of Ajay Mitchell, who plays a very similar style. He's a great ball handler who could play off the bench. He's actually seen rotation minutes last year. So that them two have a little bit of a positional battle, especially with, Caruso and Cason Wallace still there as those secondary playmakers for OKC. So don't expect much with Topic this incoming season, but he's definitely a player to watch. So let's go into another interesting game that kicked off Las Vegas Summer League. That's the New Orleans Pelicans and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So Zach, I'm going to give this one to you. Jean Verengé. Was he the most impressive performance of Summer League so far?
Yes, I'm going to say yes. And it's early, but oh my gosh, dude. I mean, 7 blocks in trying to see the minutes here. I mean, 23 minutes, 7 blocks. That's crazy. And what's so interesting to me, and one of the things I was even talking to my family about, as I was kind of watching some of these games, is like, he is so young. I believe he's still 18, I want to say. And,
Hmm.
just the fact that he has this amazing, I mean, we knew coming in, he had these physical tools. He had these great defensive instincts. We've seen how much of a good defender he has been, in totality. But the fact that he just came in immediately and just showed everything with all this great timing, great understanding of the tempo, perfectly understanding exactly where he needs to be. I mean, that, and I even tweeted it too. That's what matters in so much to me in summer league, and why I even wrote that article in the first place, is because these are the things you look for just in terms of their understanding of where they need to be, the timing, that level of confidence. I mean, it's just impressive. He just impressed me just through and through. It was just amazing process. And yeah, I mean, fantasy managers are going to be super excited if they already drafted him. Yeah, what a performance! Extremely impressive. Definitely the most impressive, I would say.
Yeah, that was a very, very exciting game for dynasty managers in particular yesterday. There was a ton of just talent across the board on both rosters. And we got the matchup of Jeremiah Fears versus Rob Dillingham. So let's go to you, Brian. How do you feel about Jeremiah Fears, how he did yesterday, and just him as a prospect overall?
So he really sticks with the zero fears. He's not afraid of anyone. However, he, like Demon, will probably be one of the most negatively impactful players in the NBA. I don't see a world where he's even remotely close to a positive in year one. He was good in this game, still didn't shoot the ball very well. And look, he was a reclassified point guard. So he's supposed to be entering college right now. Reclassified point guards aren't normally good. Shout out Ashton Hagans. But he was really good at Oklahoma last year, right? And that's part of the reason why I'm a lot more optimistic. However, he is just physically underdeveloped. And I just don't see a world where he's not at least a positive or even a neutral until maybe after the All-Star break in a second season. Personally, if I was in dynasty leagues, I would advocate to not draft him. Wait until next offseason and hit the buy low hard. I'm interested, one, and then after we probably see some flashes this year, which I think we will. But I think overall it's going to be a really frustrating experience for dynasty managers. And I think it should become with an expectation of that if you already drafted him.
I love that advice. Hit the buy low hard on Fears next offseason, where whoever drafted him is tired of putting up with those stats, doesn't want to wait for him anymore, wants to re-roll the dice on a different pick or take somebody else. That's going to be the time to capitalize. Definitely go with that one there, trying to buy low on Fears for the next offseason. But now we can switch our focus to Derek Queen. So not necessarily like as controversial as of a prospect for some, but 13 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and he did make a three-pointer yesterday as well. However, as Mitch just pointed out to me, 7 turnovers. So it's like, yes, we saw some good passes. I did see a pretty flashy behind-the-back pass from him yesterday as well. But that came at the expense of that many turnovers. And I know, obviously, in Summer League, they're going to pump more usage into him, try to get some more playmaking out of him, because they want that aspect of him to develop. But let's go to you first, Mitch. Does his ability to take care of the ball worry you a bit right now? Or is it okay because Summer League's the time to experiment?
Yeah, Summer League is definitely the time to experiment. You know what you're getting with Derek Queen. They gave up so much draft capital to move up 10 spots. They pretty much gave away they mortgaged their future for 2026, especially in such a strong draft class where you don't have DeJounte Murray for the first half of the season. And who knows if Zion is going to be healthy. You're pretty much playing Russian roulette at that point for a Derek Queen. That being said, if you draft him, you at least know how much the Pelicans are invested in Derek Queen, so he's going to at least get some rotation minutes to see what he has. And he does also have a pretty good stat set, especially for category leagues. So we're still relatively high on Derek Queen. Yes, it's Summer League. Who cares, really? But we've seen some of the exciting flashes that we wanted to see in terms of like attacking a closeout. He has that quickness and agility as a pretty fun big man. But let's move into...
Well, actually, let me ask one question to both of you before we move on here. This is relating to Queen and the Pelican situation really quickly. So as a dynasty manager, you can each take your turn answering this one. Would you sacrifice a uncontrolled or unprotected first round pick just to move up 10 spots?
I'm gonna say no. As someone who just drafted him 8th overall in a categories league, probably just about an hour or two ago. Brian can certainly attest to that. But as much as I like him, and I have liked him a lot, absolutely not.
Nope. Nope. Not nowhere. No.
I mean, it's really one thing if you're moving 10 spots from like maybe 12, or let's say maybe like 15 to 5 to get like
right.
Knipple
Right.
or Ace Bailey. But, you know, if you're already in the early teens, late lotto, yeah, that's not a great decision.
Because there could be someone, there could be someone solid that falls into that 20s range. It's like once you're kind of at the back end of the lotto or outside of the lotto, there's all sorts of talent out there, people who can fall a little bit. So yes, there is a lot of us putting some stock into the fact that, oh, look what New Orleans did just to get him. However, a lot of us as dynasty managers wouldn't do that. So it's like, yes, they went out on a limb to get him, but at this point it seems a little bit ill-advised. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. But what's the next game we wanted to look at here, Mitch?
Yeah, let's talk about Kasparas' bounce back game. And I think this is a very interesting conversation because there's a lot of discourse on Kasparas' turnovers, inability to create separation, but he did a lot of great things, especially on the defensive end, where there were questions coming in to Summer League if he can address those issues with, the increased physicality, the length of NBA level players. So I'll ask you, Brian, how do you feel about Kasparas as a dynasty asset, really early into the pre-draft process? I think we were in the same Devy league. He went 3rd at one point in our rookie startup. So there's a lot of hype around him early in the season. How far are you off of that train? Is there like a median that you're trying to hit in evaluating him as an asset, or are you thinking of him as like, oh, maybe he's like in the late lotto discussion moving forward in this class?
So I really like Kasparas. My main thing with him was he got hurt around January, had like some forearm injury, and that really impacted his play. What we also have heard is during the pre-draft process, he had an ankle injury that impacted him, and it probably caused him to help miss some shots. I also wasn't a big fan of how he conducted his pre-draft process. Apparently, according to some reports, he was only really working out with teams from like 11 to 15 or something like that.
Hmm.
And if you're not hitting shots, I mean, it's going to be tough. So he was a candidate to fall if it was really impacting him, which clearly it was. The athleticism concerns are real. We saw it in big time play. There were games where he would struggle. The other thing I think is really important to remember with this game in particular that happened today is he hit shots. The 3 games of the California Classic, he did not hit shots. When he's hitting shots, he looks really good. When he's not, it's going to be an issue. He needs to be a really good shot maker if this is going to work. What I will say, though, is I like the fit in Miami. Spo's going to know how to use him. And he's big enough and knows how to play off the ball. So there are some more NBA outs there. I think I had him at 9 or 9 or 10 on my big board when pre-draft. So I'm still pretty high on him. In a dynasty league, I think it would really depend on your league, but I think you could take him anywhere from 8 to 15. And I feel like that'd be a good spot.
Yeah.
8, I'd only really take him at 8 if like you're really just like looking at the board and you're just like, oh, Common probably goes at like 7, and you're like, I'm not really in love with Derek Queen. I don't like the fit. I at least trust Miami and know what they're doing. It is worth noting though, they seem to have promised Walter Clayton before pre-draft, and Utah had to jump up to get him, and so they were like, oh, might as well just take Kasparas. So it is worth noting that they at least have probably a Walter Clayton higher than Kasparas to begin with. So that is something to keep in mind, that teams probably weren't as high as the media consensus was, I guess. But a lot of that information probably wasn't public. So I would just go in with the expectation that it might be a rough year. However, in time, there could be a real pop, and maybe he is the point guard on this team next to Tyler Hero. I don't know how good that team's going to be, but I think there are some sneaky lower end outcomes of like maybe like a worse version of Austin Reeves, which is probably like a top 100 player, right? And I think that is perfectly fine to take him in that 8 to 15 range in dynasty leagues.
Very good point. All right, so now as we start to dive more into some of the games from today, we're going to open up the floor a little bit more to now, well, I don't want to call them upperclassmen. That's not the right term, but guys who are into their sophomore and maybe even third year in the NBA here. So let's take it to you, Zach. How do you feel about Kobe Buffkin as a dynasty asset and his fit in Atlanta long term?
Kobe Buffkin. So kind of interesting. I mean he's hit 29 points today. I mean he's super impressive. Making those shots. I've been very back and forth about him as a dynasty asset. I've been a little bit lower on him just because I'm not totally sure. I haven't seen a lot yet that I've loved personally. Um I like that he dominated today. That certainly has me interested. And I think the fact that, they didn't draft. I felt for a long time that Atlanta needs to draft that really good guard. Like I really liked Walter Clayton for them. I really like Jace Richardson for them. I think those are guys that could be really good, sort of in their reserves. They didn't really do that. So to me, it makes me think there is some more buy-in, which makes me think I must be lower than, maybe I should be. So I want to see more out of Kobe. I think just in on the whole, in summer league and just really throughout preseason, I want to just see him healthy, him hitting shots, him doing well, so that I can just kind of be there. But I haven't really been there in the past. But I'm hoping to have my mind changed, and this is certainly the start if he's going to just keep scoring the heck out of the ball this summer. So
Right. There's been his last season, I think he had two shoulder injuries, which really ravaged his real runway. But now they just signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who kind of clogs up their guard rotation. The Dyson Daniels explosion that we all love from a fantasy perspective. So we don't really know where Buffkin, to your point, really stands long term, but there is a lot of potential because his skill set and stat set is so clean. Going into the pre-draft process, you're like, oh, is this the new Jalen Brunson, right? Like a lefty that can kind of do a little bit of everything on efficient shot making. But let's move on to another game for a second year. Jaylen Wells, a starter for a playoff team playing in Summer League, getting those reps. So, I know they just drafted Cedric Coward, who's probably a 2, but how do you feel about Jaylen Wells long term? We'll start with you, Brian.
So I saw Jaylen Wells in person in Salt Lake. So I went to Summer League there. He was unbelievable. And I think he was the best player on the floor. And no disrespect to Ajay Mitchell. I think frankly, I don't know why he's playing. He didn't hit shots today, but I am not worried. I think he's going to start on this team. I think him and Coward can work together, honestly. And I really like the trajectory rate of Jaylen Wells. D2 player, was coming off the bench at Washington State right before he got drafted. And then he goes to Memphis and he's a starter. His defense has improved dramatically. I don't know if there's a ton of on-ball juice, but I wouldn't rule it out considering his trajectory rate right now. And I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit in Summer League, and I think he's been pretty good with it. If it does come around, I don't think it'll be this season. It might be the year after, but I still really like him. And I don't know if the fantasy wise he's going to be amazing, but maybe there's some top 70 outcomes there for a couple of years. But I think even Josh Lloyd said it earlier on one of his pods that like he's kind of like KCP, and that's kind of who I can kind of see it as, maybe a better version of KCP for fantasy. Maybe one that isn't so reliant on not turning the ball over, but I think he'll be a really important and impactful player for probably a decade.
Yeah, KCP had a couple of top 100 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Denver
that does get favored from efficiency, but still high threes and steals. KCP was a useful player, but on the other side for Boston, there is one guy who majority of the NBA world didn't know much about. Not only because he did not play stateside, but also because for his overseas team, he didn't play a ton of minutes either. And so we finally got a big game sample size of Hugo Gonzalez. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. A very, very solid all-around 9-category performance. Zach, how do you feel about Hugo?
I really like Hugo, man. I think he's gotten really underrated, especially in the dynasty world. I'm very in on him, especially if you have like a pick kind of in that like late 20s, early 30s range. I just think he's really good. I mean, you see it all throughout this game. He just has this, ruthless aggression. He's, constantly just getting up there. He's going at people. He's tenacious. I think that just kind of tells the whole story about him. He does a lot of stuff. He does it all. He's exactly the kind of guy that Boston loves. I think, I've seen this go a little bit unnoticed, but, the fact that their center rotation is what it is, and the fact that they passed on Ryan Kalkbrenner there in order to take Hugo, or any of the bigs really, but, just the fact that they passed up a big there to take Hugo, I think speaks volumes. And I think this year is going to be huge for him, man. I think it's going to be plenty of runway for him to work it out, figure out those kinks. But I loved everything about him. I mean, everything in this game told me everything that I was hoping for, and I'm really excited for him. And I hope that this puts people on notice that this is a guy you should be looking out for.
Well, you just started a meme calling it ruthless aggression. Anytime you're mentioning Hugo now on Twitter, I'm spamming you with John Cena memes now.
Please do. Please do. I forgot about that, but I remember now, so please do that.
So glad that we finally got a little bit of evidence from Hugo stateside. That's great to see. I mean, he is a very exciting prospect, and it's like, it's so hard to really convince people of that when they're just like, oh, he was playing like 10 minutes a game for Real Madrid. Like, what am I supposed to be looking at here? This is what you're supposed to be looking at. So keep a close eye on Boston throughout the remainder of the Summer League in Vegas here. A game that wrapped up not too long ago, the Jazz and the Hornets. Let's talk about Liam McNeely really quick here. Liam came in and he put up, where is he at again? 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists.
Off the bench.
Off the bench. This is someone, even Mitch and I, we will of course admit this, we're calling him just a shooter and wasn't really filling out the box score of much else. Let's go to you, Brian. Do you like Liam McNeely at all, or is this maybe just like a one-off performance? We probably can't expect him to stuff the stat sheet like this.
So I'm going to say both. I do like Liam McNeely. He had an ankle injury during the season that really messed with his shooting as well. Before that, he was in the top 10 of my big board. I think he's really good. I'm not worried at all about the shooting. I think there's better outcomes than Corey Kispert for him. I think there are some starting outcomes I have liked maybe as a ceiling outcome as like a Bojan Bogdanovic type, but I don't expect him to get 12 rebounds like maybe anytime soon, at least for the next couple of seasons. But I do expect him to be able to pass the ball because he did show quite a bit of that at UConn. And he's a smart player. He's a really good competitor. I think he'll be in the rotation in his rookie season, maybe start. I don't know how likely that is, but I think he was really impressive for sure.
Zach, are you concerned at all about the 5-point game from Con Kneppel today?
No. I'll give you a one-word answer. It's no.
I love that. I love that answer very much so. Now, Mitch, let's talk about your boy Ryan Kalkbrenner. 3 blocks today, 10 rebounds, 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. How you feeling about your boy Kalk today?
Yeah, I think he's great. I've been following him since the Creighton days when he was playing next to Ryan Nemhart before he transferred over to Gonzaga. And I was always impressed with his defense. I thought he could stretch the floor in the mid-range a little bit. I know he's like trying to experiment in the three-point range, which would add longevity to his game. We can hopefully see long-term outcomes to like potentially like a Brook Lopez where, he can get you some blocks, some pretty good rebounds and points. But in terms of Kalkbrenner, Charlotte has a real gap in their center rotation. Mm-hmm. And we've seen, despite his fall or draft capital, he's being taken maybe in the late teens, early 20s in rookie dynasty drafts. And for good reason. He's probably going to have an opportunity to potentially start, maybe not in the beginning of the season. It could go to Diabate, it could go to Mason Plumlee, but there's a real chance he beats those two out just because he's so much more well-rounded, and especially he really fits the direction of the team in terms of age. So a huge fan of Cockburner, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year of the Big East, is here to stay. And I think he's going to be a great asset long-term moving forward because of his blocking ability.
Yeah, Cockburn is an exciting one, and just obviously with that opportunity in Charlotte for him, very much like to see that. Now we are gonna start rounding it out towards the end here, but it's currently, at least, so Mitch and I are on the Western time zone here. It is currently 7:52 p.m. At 8 o'clock, we have tip-off for Blazers versus Warriors, and I think everybody deserves a chance here to give some input on the debut of Hansen Yang. We're finally going to get a peek into the mystery box and see a little bit more about what Hansen Yang's all about. So we did see him last year. He was actually with the Chinese national team. They played a couple of different of the summer league units out here. Let's go to you first, Brian. How do you feel about Hansen Yang as a dynasty asset?
I will say this. I think he's going to go higher than what people thought in some cases. I think he's got a lot of followers, and I think in some spots he could go pretty early. I think that's the wrong move, but I think there's hype around him. He was evidently reached on. Yes, there were rumors about maybe Brooklyn wanting him as well, which given how their draft went, it tracks. So there is at least some intrigue there. Aiton's gone. Williams will not be there long term. Yang is going to get opportunity to play because this move is going to end up with Cronin fired, or he's going to look amazing. So he's going to have an opportunity to showcase what he's got. I just think he's really slow. I'm not buying personally. However, if it works, it's going to look pretty good. I do not think there's any Jokic outcomes. I don't even think there's Sabonis. But I do think there is at least an interesting fantasy player if it works.
Okay, so my question for both of you, because all of our rookie dynasty leagues have wrapped up in terms of their rookie drafts. The highest we've seen is Yang to go at 13th in one of our 30-team leagues. I want to ask you both. You know, I'm sure you share leagues. I know you're probably in some separate leagues of your own. What's the highest you've seen Hansen Yang go with all that hype surrounding him?
So I've only done one league so far that has had their draft at least somewhat finish up, and he went 29, which I was honestly kind of surprised he went low. However, the league that I was in, honestly, there were some really smart picks, and no one really fell. I mean, Hugo fell to me at 35, and then Stroff at 43, but that was it. Everyone else was like bang on point, and it was actually pretty impressive. So my one game sample is probably not going to be much use, though I know Zach has been tracking some Dynasty ADP and might have more input with that.
Yeah, the highest that I've seen so far of the ones I've seen submitted to people or submitted to me from other people's drafts is probably 14, I think. I think people have been pretty chill on him, I would say. I expected a couple people to pick him top 10. I haven't seen it yet. Which, I mean, depending on how much of a fan you are, good, maybe. But yeah, I've seen a couple people in like the teens, like 14, 16, 17. Seems to be about where he was drafted, which I think, too high for me personally, but I get it. I mean, he's got that elite skill, and if you're looking for those elite skills for fantasy, especially, I can't knock it. I mean, could be Jokic. I mean, I don't think he'll be Jokic, but who knows? We didn't think Jokic would be Jokic either. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Remember Braxton was considering drafting him 6th?
Yep, that's right. Oh my I mean, there's some people who definitely consider him up that high, but didn't.
Yeah.
In Braxton's defense, he didn't end up doing it, but it was up for consideration. So that's the intrigue of the mystery box. You know,
you don't know what
definitely
exactly.
It could be a vote.
Exactly. So like alluding to what Brian was saying, this is either going to make the GM look really good or get him fired. But at least to the GM's credit, the dude's got some serious balls pulling a guy out of the crowd to get drafted 16 overall. That is
No doubt.
pretty crazy. So, wrapping up here for final thoughts on Summer League, is there anybody else you guys are keeping a close eye on that we have not mentioned today? We'll start with you first, Zach.
Yeah, really who I've been most interested in, very excited about are some of the guys who are just already looking too good for Summer League. And those would be guys like your AJ Mitchells, your Kyle Filipowskis. I think Jaylen Wells is definitely one of those guys. I mean, man, Kyle Filipowski, I want to just talk about him for a few minutes if you
Let's
guys
do
want
it.
to. Gosh, I mean, what can you even say, man? I mean, he looks like just a man among boys out there. He's been incredible. I'm really excited for him this season. I think I've said for a little bit now that he is probably my biggest buy of the Dynasty offseason. And the buy window is probably closed now. I hate to say it. People are going to overreact to that. And so if you bought him, I'm happy for you. If you're able to get him for a good price. But yeah, I'm very intrigued this year. And I know Brian could probably speak to him a bit more because he is a Jazz fan, but I'm very excited for the year he's going to have off this stuff. And I know I wrote a whole article about don't react to some of this stuff. I'm overreacting to it.
Yeah, I mean, Filipowski's good. What else can you
He's just
say?
good.
Like, he puts up numbers. He's always put up numbers, and I am interested to see what happens with his role next season. Especially, does he play the five, or does he move more to the four with John Collins gone? How does
Mhm.
Yusuf Nurkic even fit into this mess? So you talked about my Jazz. I'm going to talk about your Cavs. Jaylen Tyson is good.
Yes.
So good.
Jaylen
Yes,
Tyson
another
is
guy I
so
think
good.
you could probably put in
I
that
don't
category.
yeah, I don't understand. Like he's too good for summer league.
Too
Frankly,
good.
he's going to be in the rotation. I'm pretty certain.
I was
Yeah.
waiting
Um,
for I was telling everybody, it's like no way the Cavs are going to afford to keep Ty Jerome, and what I wanted was Jaylen Tyson to step up into that role. But the arrival of Lonzo complicates things a little bit. But since you are a Cavs fan, Zach, is there still room for Tyson in this rotation despite Lonzo now being there?
Yeah, I think so. I think there definitely is. He does so much. I mean, he is such a good playmaker. He's one of those guys who's just shown he can do it all. I mean, even in moments during the season, I mean, he just shows he can just be a good two-way player. Now, I think he does need to definitely improve as far as his defense, and I think shot making, it seems to have improved definitely. I mean, he was 3 for 8 from the field, but I think the mechanics look better. I think his shot making definitely looked better. As we kind of went throughout his rookie season, even in the limited minutes, and mind you, when he played in the G League. But yeah, I mean, I think his process looks good, and I think the process makes me think he is capable for a role, and I'm really hopeful he can. But I think there's definitely opportunity for him. He, I'm very intrigued to see. I have questions early on, but I think by the end of the year he will have a firm role in the rotation. Is where I stand.
yeah, I mean, Kenny Atkinson plays tons of players. We just saw Isaac Okoro get
Always
booted to Chicago too. So, and like
right.
DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, like you never know. Maybe if someone gets injured, he's going to play this season, and he's probably going to have a few monster games that are going to get people excited.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
then you're just hoping for him to get traded to another team, maybe sadly, because that Cavs team is just loaded. But no, he's
Hmm.
good. He's
He is
really
good.
good.
This
And
time
another name I'm
last
kind of
year, we
keeping
were
my eye
talking a
on.
lot about Tyson, Filipowski, AJ Mitchell. So love to hear them back in the as a topic of conversation today. Love to see that all four of us really seem to be in agreement on these are great dynasty buys to have right now, especially within team context. These guys are likely going to rise into a better rotation role this year. So love seeing all that. Absolutely love to see that. So that's probably going to wrap it up for us today on the players we wanted to discuss. There's of course much more summer league to take place, so keep a close eye on all of our social media accounts as we will, bring you all of our instant reactions, everything that we have to say about how summer league has gone down, especially for this Vegas portion, since that's the most watched portion. But for both of you, Zach and Brian, for starters, thank you so much for joining us today. We loved having you on. And my question let's do this one at a time because I know you do have some separate accounts. Zach, where can we find you and your work?
Yeah, you can find me at Dizzle Dynasty on X, Twitter, Substack. I'm on there, dizzledynasty.substack.com. our website, DizzleDynasty.com, that just recently dropped. Anywhere at Dizzle Dynasty, you can pretty much find me. And please be sure to follow us because we have a lot more coming this summer. You're not going to want to miss it.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow them, see their content, any collaborations that they do. Maybe we will collaborate with them on one of their pods soon. There's a lot of great Dynasty discussions to have. Brian, where can the people find your work at?
So my Twitter handle is weirdos1221 with the I and the R switched. Yeah, I have posted a bunch of scouting reports there, some thoughts, and obviously DizzleDynasty.substack.com as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on today. We are on the push for 500 YouTube subscribers. So if you have not subscribed to the channel already, it would greatly help us out if you do subscribe so we can make that push. We can grow this channel more and bring you guys more of the fantasy and dynasty content that you all love to see. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of Las Vegas Summer League. We'll see you guys next time.